What up? It's your boy AZ Dre. Maybe you're in law school or you found me in the algorithm, but right now we're about to see what happens if you misuse a protective orders. Fuck around and find out.
The abuse of protective orders as a tool to shortcut custody litigation. This is something that should never happen. Point blank, it should never happen. Protective orders exist under statute for a very specific reason, and that's to protect individuals from domestic violence, threats of domestic violence, harassment, and stalking. That is the purpose. However, it's become a trend in Oklahoma courts, and this is a lot more common than anyone would be comfortable knowing, of people, and most of them, unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, and I hate to make this about, most of them are women.
Oh, okay, all right.
Women.
Going to court and alleging harassment or stalking or some kind of threat as grounds to get a protective order and getting it on themselves and the child as a means to gain custody of the child in it. And when they're...
See, I'm telling y'all, especially y'all black men, man. Stop getting women pregnant who you don't even like. Stop letting your thing get you in trouble.
You get an immediate hearing that day on the petition. And assuming you can rewrite it reasonably enough that it meets the elements of the statute, a judge will enter an order temporarily creating an emergency protective order. And it's a relatively low burden of proof. It's, I mean, we're talking about a preponderance standard, and if the
Preponderance standard.
In the case of the emergency, basically, if the allegations meet the statute, he's going to enter that emergency order immediately, and it's effective upon service. Emergency, basically, if the allegations meet the statute, he's going to enter that emergency order immediately.
What? Dang, so she getting full custody based off of allegations.
FTR match. I saw
Accusations!
These are not accusations. This is
False accusations.
And this is what you got pregnant. You skeeted it in that. That's crazy.
Make these allegations, and the court, as long as it's drafted the right way, the court will enter the order immediately, and now she has the child.
From the police. Crazy.
And the problem you run into is then, now there is a short turnaround time on hearings, but again, as I mentioned, it is a low burden of proof. Many of these cases, it's going to be a he said, she said situation. And judges, unfortunately, will tend to err on the side of granting the order if they have a question, even though burden of proof is on the petitioner. They tend to err on the side of granting the order for the simple reason that they don't want to wind up on the news if it turns out that they denied an order in a case where there was a legitimate problem. Now, in Tulsa County, our judges will advise women to, if they, if there is a minor child on the order, to go and pursue an emergency ex parte custody order in the family court as well, and we'll tell them that if they fail to do so, the child will be dropped off the order. However, in practice, this can take several months for that to happen, and in the meantime, you will be denied any access to your child. And women, unfortunately, a lot of women know this, and they will use this as a tactic. That's the first advantage. The second advantage is if a final order gets entered, and again, as I said, it's a low burden of proof. If a final order gets entered, even if it doesn't include the child on the order, that will set up a presumption that will work against you later in custody litigation, because under Title 43, if there is domestic violence in the relationship, or stalking or harassment, or if there's threats of domestic violence, there is a legal presumption that will work against you having custody. It is presumed that it's not in the best interest for you to have custody or unsupervised visitation. And the burden of proof on that is on those issues in domestic court is the same burden of proof as in a protective order court. So the court can treat the entry of a final protective order as prima facie evidence that this is what's been going on, which sets up that presumption. So the bottom line is there are certainly incentives if a woman is looking to win custody of a child quickly, there are incentives to seek out a protective order, even if it's even if the grounds are shaky. And she risks very little by doing it too, because there is a criminal statute that makes doing that a crime, but in my experience, I've never seen a woman prosecuted for misusing protective orders. And trying to recover your attorney's fees is extremely difficult, because the only way that a defendant on one of these cases, the only way you as the respondent can get your attorney's fees is if you can prove affirmatively, one, that it was frivolously filed, and two, that there was no victim. And again, I have, in my experience practicing in this area, and I do a lot of these, I've never seen somebody successfully pull that off on a protective order filed as a shortcut.
It's raps for you, dog. Just like you don't want to wrap it up.
Fortunately, the law has some holes in it.
But you heard it, bro. He said the law has holes in it, and this guy is a lawyer.
I'm not going to sit here and say there shouldn't be a protective order statute, and certainly I'm not saying there aren't cases where a protective order is appropriate. Unfortunately, she's looking at a difficult custody battle, and because if she is successful, there are high rewards. And another reward, by the way, is she can get her attorney's fees both in the protective order and in future custody litigation if she can establish domestic violence. And again, because that entry of that protective order could be a final order could be considered prima facie evidence of domestic violence, there are a lot of rewards available to trying this if you can pull it off and you're successful, and the risk is low. The statute.
Low risk, low reward. Always remember.
Courts are not allowed to purport to modify an existing custody order, so you do have an argument against that.
Yep.
But again, you're going to be forced to go and argue that.
Imagine you're just looking like some dude dragging some children and a woman to court. That's how they're going to view you. That's the messed up part about it.
Moment, that's the best protection you have. Is don't give her an
pregnant
excuse.
either.
Be very careful what you say to her. Do not get into a heated argument with her. If you are in a situation where things are contentious between you and her, and then meet somewhere public when you do custody exchanges, you're just going to have to be really careful to make it difficult for her to come up with something that could be bootstrapped into a protective order. And then the other thing is if you find yourself in this situation, you need to get a good lawyer involved quickly.
Get the Chief Keef music.
Bodies drop, we beat the case. My true lawyer defeat the case.
Who's going to be aggressive and really come at her hard.
That's what she said.
Because unfortunately, if this happens,
I might have to call this dude up one day, man. Just kidding.
You want to get a hold of somebody quickly. You do want to get a hold of me through dads.law.
Look, bro, if any of y'all see this dads.law, they helping you out.
But I'm going to tell you guys, this is an unusual thing. I don't usually do this. I think this is one of those situations where you also need to get in touch with your legislature and start talking to them about making some reforms to the law. Because as it stands right now, there's little to no consequence to women who do this.
That's the truth.
Be careful.
It is unfortunately mostly women. I don't mean to sound sexist about that, but it is mostly women that are doing this. I've yet to see a man do it. Now, I'm not saying I think that no men have ever tried it. I just haven't seen it. I have seen plenty of examples of women that try this, and in some cases they're successful. But even if they're not, in the long term,
And that means you don't get to see your kids, dog.
in my opinion, this is an area where there is not a really good consequence for the misuse of these protective orders. The laws heavily favor petitioners over respondents, and because a lot of the petitioners are women, they do favor women. So this is something where you guys need to get together, talk talk to your legislature. We need to get a ballot initiative going on this so that we can try to remedy this problem where there is a weakness in the law.
Yeah, it must
Because I
be.
do believe that's a problem, and the only thing you can really do to try to protect yourself
Facts,
is just to be really careful what you say, what you put down in writing, what you do, aggressive lawyer right away, and fight like hell.
Fight to see your kids.
But the reality is there's very little in the law to deter this sort of behavior. It needs to be reformed.
All right, that'll do it for the video. Like and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoy and you're having a good day. And you don't have a bitter ass baby mama. Peace.